Hey everyone, welcome to the AIM Insights webinar. I'm so excited to have you here. My name is Garrett Mintz. I'm the founder of Ambition in Motion, one of the co-creators of AIM Insights. I am here to walk you through what AIM Insights is, how it works, how it can help you advance in your career, advance as a leader, get coaching, and just overall help your team improve your performance and their performance. So let's just dive right in. So here's AIM Insights. Here's Sahil Test. He's one of our test leaders using AIM Insights. This is your command center. So during AIM Insights, your direct reports will complete a short 10-question survey every single month. It'll take them about 2 minutes. They could do it from their phone. They could do it from their computer. Super short and easy. And this is where you can see where the last survey ended and where the next survey opens up. You can see your direct reports. In this case, Sahil has 3 direct reports. And yeah, essentially, they'll be prompted to take a survey every single month. Now, the initial survey is a little bit longer. It's 50 questions. It'll take them about 10 to 15 minutes to complete. But that's an intake assessment. After that, super short, 10 questions, 2 minutes. And it just allows us to get the information we need to effectively understand how are your direct reports feeling at work. And then we'll rectify how do you feel about your direct reports and where might there be perception gaps. And the reason why we measure this is because we know that perception gaps are the single most critical element for why people end up becoming disengaged at work. Is because their perception of work is different from their manager's perception of them. We're going to help rectify that with AIM Insights. So let's dive in. Let's pull up Haral over here. So this is when you see, by the way, this gold preview bar, when you see that, that means that is what Haral, the direct report, sees whenever she logs in and logs into her AIM Insights dashboard. So she can see what goals she set from this past month. If she's got a survey that's to be due, she'll see that right here. But one thing you'll notice is this triangle right here. I'm going to click read more. I'm going to click read more and pull that up. So this is our work orientation triangle. So at Ambition in Motion, our backgrounds in industrial organizational psychology research, we've been studying mentor relationships and why do two people get along with each other in a mentor relationship. Well, one of the things that we've discovered is that a lot of the core elements of mentor relationships also apply to managerial and leadership relationships. So if you're job oriented, it means you're motivated by work-life balance. If you're career oriented, it means you're motivated by growth and learning new skills. And if you're calling oriented, it means you're motivated by impact. If you're on this orientation page, you can always scroll down to the bottom. You can read more about our work orientations here. But if in a mentor relationship, when two people's work orientations are aligned at this given moment in time, the likelihood that relationship lasts for 6 months and is considered productive and quality is 4 times greater than if it's just based on what you do. Now, from a managerial relationship and from a leadership perspective, this also has a huge impact. One of the things that we found is that how you manage is really critical and really critical to the relationship between you and your direct reports. So if your work orientation is different from your direct reports, that's okay, but it's critical that as a leader, we understand that. So just raise a hand if you're watching this. How many of you have read the book, The 5 Love Languages? Raise your hand if you read that book. If you've not read the book, great book to read with your spouse. But one of the core tenets of the book is that we often love in the way that we would want to be loved, not necessarily in the way that our partner would want to be loved. What we have found in our research is the same is true for management. We often manage in the way that we would want to be managed, not necessarily in the way that our direct reports would want to be managed. So I'll give you an example. One of our leaders using AIM Insights, before she was using AIM Insights and knew what her direct reports' work orientation was. She was career oriented. The manager, the leader, she's career oriented. She's motivated by growth and learning new skills. She's hungry to get to the next position, but she's got a direct report that she really wanted to be successful, but her direct report is job oriented. And she kept thinking to herself, like, man, I keep giving her opportunity after opportunity to step up and take on more responsibilities. And she just doesn't seem interested in it. I don't know. I think I might have to let her go. She's really just like, she's a great employee. She gets what I need to get done. But when it comes to, taking on leadership positions or leadership opportunities, it just doesn't seem to be happening. I'm just trying to figure out why. And it's like, well, she's not driven by that. For her, she's job oriented. So what that means is that what we need to do as leaders for someone who's got a different work orientation as us is cater our motivations to them. So if somebody's job oriented, it means they're motivated by work-life balance. So if I'm leading a job oriented individual, they want to have autonomy. They want to control who, what, when, where, and how they do their work. So one thing you could do, and by the way, every work environment is different, but this is an example. One thing you could do is say, hey, person who's job oriented, if you get tasks A, B, and C done up to these quality metrics, you can have the rest of the day off once you're done. Highly motivating to a job oriented individual. They will find the most efficient way to get that work done. But if instead you said, hey, job-oriented individual, if you get tasks A, B, and C done up to these quality metrics, great, I've got more work for you. Not very motivating. They're going to take their sweet old time and you're going to be left frustrated. And by the way, that's okay. If they get off work at maybe 1 o'clock for a day, maybe you come the next day and say, okay, now you got to get tasks A, B, C, and D done up to these quality metrics. Once you get those done, you can have the rest of the day off. They're not going to be frustrated by it. They are just going to find the most efficient way to get their work done. I've found people that have found incredible results with their job-oriented direct reports, but they have to be very clear about what their expectations are and what the reward is for getting that done. Because for them, they want to be at home with their family or just spending time outside of work, doing whatever they do outside of work. But the actual being in the job itself is not something that's highly driving to them, and that's okay. You just have to understand that and cater your motivations to them that align with that. Now, if you got someone who's career oriented, on the other hand, they're motivated by growth and learning new skills. They're motivated by getting to the next level. For them, ambiguity is your worst enemy. Do not just give them high fives and thumbs up. They want to be able to see that in 6 months, they can work towards something. This could mean more responsibilities. This could be a promotion. This could be a raise. This could be new skills. This could be new tests. It could be just something. It doesn't have to be a formal promotion. It could be anything, but they have to have something they're looking forward, because if they don't see a clear step that they're taking in their career, they will leave to find work that allows them to take those steps. And then if you got a calling oriented direct report like Haral is here, she's motivated by having an impact on her work. You might not be all about the mission, vision, core values, core focus of the company, but she is. And if you got a calling oriented direct report, you need to reinforce that. You need to nourish that they are calling oriented. You need to reshare testimonials with them, because even if they're in a back office role where maybe they're not touching the customer, maybe they're not interacting with them all that frequently, that's fine, that's okay. But we need to create an environment where they're fully understanding the impact of their work, or the subsequent steps, like the domino effects of their impact of their work. Because if they don't, it becomes unclear and ambiguous, and they don't really know exactly how their work is impacting their community and the people they're serving, they're going to leave for work that allows them to get more of that calling feeling. So that is the work orientation triangle. Now, what's nice about AIM Insights is you don't have to memorize all of this. You don't have to think to yourself, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to memorize all these things. You get an executive coach. You get an hour of executive coaching with AIM Insights every month. And so we can work with you through each of your direct reports and how you can cater a leadership style to them based on what their work orientation is. So that's one of the nice things about AIM Insights, is that you get a live executive coach on Zoom, one-on-one with you and your executive coach to work through what's going on with you, what's going on with your team, and really how can you go about getting your relationship on track and maybe helping turn around a team member's performance. Now, what's also really nice about this is in the individual reports tab, you can see the gap analysis between, in blue, what Sahil, the manager, thought of Haral, versus in gold, what Haral thought of herself. So in gold, this is just Haral's response of her task performance. But in blue, this is Sahil's response of Haral. Now, what's interesting is Sahil felt pretty consistent about Haral. He felt like she was doing fine, not great, but not awful either. But if you look at, let's say, April, May, June, Haral was consistently feeling like she was pretty strongly performing. Now, granted, in August and September, Haral was like, you know what, I might be struggling a little bit. But either way, as a leader, it's critical that we know this. So if we're in a scenario like it's April, May, where Haral feels like she's doing great, everything she touches turns to gold and is amazing, and Sahil's like, yeah, you're doing okay, you need to have a rectifying conversation. Because if you have a performance review and you come in there and you're like, hey, Haral, you've been fine, but you've not been really exceeding my expectations, and Haral thinks that she's doing amazing, that is going to be such a major letdown. You do not want to have any surprises in your performance review. Vice versa, if you get to a scenario like August and September where Haral feels pretty low about her performance, and Sahil's like, you're not doing awful, you're doing fine, like, you know, you're doing okay. He needs to reinforce that, because ultimately people will burn out. People who feel poorly about the performance consistently over time and the manager feels great will burn out. Now, you might be thinking to yourself like, oh, well, if they're exceeding my expectations and they feel poorly about their performance, but I think they're doing great or good, why say anything? Well, I can tell you now why. It's the burnout factor. If they consistently feel like they are not being positively reinforced or that they're not doing a good job, they will eventually burn out, and eventually their performance will actually dip, and they may very well end up leaving because you weren't able to reinforce that they were doing a good job. Now, the four core areas we measure are team cohesion, task performance, team productivity, and organizational citizenship. Now, team cohesion and team productivity, what are the differences? Team cohesion is the measure of how well the team got along. Team productivity is the measure of how productive the team was over this past month. So team productivity could be down while team cohesion could be up. Like everybody got together, maybe you had a happy hour together, everybody really had a good time, but maybe you missed some goals that you set as a team. That'd be an example where team cohesion was high, but productivity was low. Task performance and organizational citizenship are also similar but different. Task performance is a measure of anything assigned to you. This is part of your job description. This is what you're asked to do at work. Organizational citizenship, on the other hand, is anything that you do that you're not asked to do at work. These are our undercover MVPs. These are the people that do the little things that make the business better, but they're not explicitly asked to do. And oftentimes people, if we don't measure these things, won't do them because, well, they're not being measured on it. It's not part of my comp plan. It's not part of my job description. Why do it? But what we know is that in every work environment, there are just those subtle tasks that need to get done, and they're not explicitly stated on a job description, but they just have to get done. That's where we can give acknowledgement to it. That's what organizational citizenship is. So let's get out of the individual. Oh, actually, last thing on the individual page I want to pull up is the biggest work challenge, why for work, 1-year career goal, outside of work ambition, and 90-day goal. Now, what's great about having this is that you can now see how people are feeling at work. Now, you might think to yourself, oh, well, I've been a manager. I've been leading this team for quite a while. Maybe I've been leading this team for 5, 10, 15 years. Maybe you just feel really confident about the psychological safety or security your team has with you. And so you think, you know, my team, they tell me everything. I don't need to have this. I can tell you. That's inaccurate. And here's why. Objectivity diminishes the higher anyone goes in any organizational hierarchy. What do I mean by that? People, by basic human nature, do not want to get fired. So they're going to tell you, if you're the boss, what you want to hear, what they think you want to hear. But what we found from our research is that people, when they've got time to think about their thoughts, collect their thoughts, put it down on a computer, not have to come up with it at the moment in a face-to-face interaction, they are much more likely to give more in-depth detail about what is going on with their world than they would if they were face-to-face. It's just what we've observed in our research. It's human nature, and it's just something where you're able to gather a lot more in-depth insight as to what's going on with your team versus what you would gather in just a face-to-face or in a group meeting interaction. So let's go here to our analysis tab. So in the analysis tab, we're looking at how does Sahil, the manager, feel about his direct reports on the right-hand side versus how do his direct reports feel about themselves on the left-hand side. Now, how do we get to this? In that short 10-question survey, we've got a Likert scale. So we've got a set of questions that our industrial organizational psychologists have created that gives us an idea as to how Socrates, Haral, Jennifer feel about their team cohesion, task performance, org citizenship, and team productivity. So you notice that Socrates, he felt that his task performance was down this past month, but the team cohesion was pretty strong. Haral, she felt like her organizational citizenship was down this past month, but everything else was just okay. And Jennifer felt like she crushed it this past month. She felt like team productivity was okay, but everything else that she felt was pretty strong. And it seems like Sahil agreed with her. So how do we go about doing this? We're going to go to the team analysis section. This is, by the way, what you would cover in your executive coaching session. So in your hour of coaching every month through AIM Insights, your coach is going to ask you, how'd you feel about the team's cohesion and productivity this past month? Red, yellow, green. Super easy. You give your score for how you felt the team cohesion and productivity was this past month. Individually, you're then going to assess, how did you feel about each direct report in terms of their task performance and organizational citizenship? So these are Sahil's scores for his team. Then we're going to look at what are the number of one-on-ones had. Now, this is where coaching is great because Sahil didn't have any one-on-ones with his team this past month. So that's really good for us to know because we could dive in and say, okay, maybe could Socrates' score or Haral's score this past month maybe be contributed to the lack of one-on-ones? Or why didn't you have the one-on-ones with your team this past month? Or if you had a bunch of one-on-ones, why'd you have more one-on-ones with one person versus another person? This is where coaching can be really helpful to get a better idea as to what might be going on with each direct report and your feelings about them, because ultimately we know everybody's got bias and you might have one direct report that you like more than another. This can help us get on a better page with the direct reports that we might be struggling with or frustrated at. And then the last thing we're looking at are goals. So every month, direct reports are prompted to set up to 3 goals. And we're looking at, are these goals SMART? And are these goals low, medium, or high impact? Now, what's nice about our goal setting process is that we have an AI integration. So every month when your direct reports are setting goals, they get to actually put it through an AI integration that tells them if their goal is smart or not. And if it's not smart, it helps them rewrite that goal as a SMART goal. And by smart, I mean specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. And then if it is a SMART goal, it helps them rewrite that goal as an even smarter goal. But what's great is it helps teach them how to set goals and be autonomous with their goal setting every single month. Now, you with the coach can then look at this and say, okay, well, this is a medium impact goal. This is a low impact goal. This is a high impact goal. But what it does is it allows you to get an in-depth, up and close idea as to what your direct reports think they should be focused on. The reason why having your direct report set goals every month versus you, the manager, setting goals for them is our research from the Journal for Vocational Behaviors has identified that people who set their own goals are much more likely to accomplish them than when a manager sets the goal for them. Essentially, you are getting your team to become more autonomous because you're allowing them to set their own goals. And then you give them feedback. You say, hey, Socrates, I saw this goal. It was a SMART goal. And, I thought it was medium impact. Here's how we can make this a high impact goal. This is one of the best ways to get your team to really increase their level of autonomy and their performance over time. And by the way, all teams that work with us, invariably, if you are able to have the one-on-ones with your direct reports and leverage the coaching, increase their team's productivity and performance from anywhere from 10% to even as high as 40%. Really, really positive results here. And so you can see the comparative analysis. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, like, okay, great, I get it. I've got a coach that can help me with this, but is there anything like tangible that I can hold to help me in my next one-on-ones? And the answer is yes. If you click on this little downward arrow here, a little conversation prompt pops up with some suggested questions you could ask in your next one-on-one. Now, these questions may seem super obvious. You might be thinking to yourself like, oh, yeah, I know these questions. I should definitely ask these questions. But sometimes in the heat of a moment, when you're doing a one-on-one, these questions may elude you. That's a thing that happens. And so it's just great to have these as a guide to help you with your next one-on-one to ensure that your people are setting really effective goals and that you're getting on the same page in terms of where the perception gaps might be. So let's dive into the reports tab here. The reports tab shows the aggregate average of those 4 areas we talked about before: team cohesion, task performance, org citizenship, and team productivity. But it also shows manager performance and engagement level. So this is a great way to get a miniature 360 update as to how your team feels about you as their leader. Now, it is anonymous, so you will not know who said what, but it is good for you as the leader to get an update as to how your team is feeling every month. Excuse me. There's also an engagement score. This gives you an idea as to how engaged your team is every month. Also anonymous, so you won't know who said what, but it just gives you an idea as to how the team is feeling, their overall sentiment at work. Excuse me. So let's pull up the goals section here. What's nice about the goals section is you can see what percentage of your direct reports' goals were SMART, what percentage of your direct reports' goals were low, medium, or high impact. And then what the SMART impact score looks at is of the SMART goals that were accomplished, you get 3 points for high impact, 2 points for medium impact, 1 point for low impact. What does that mean? Well, looking at this, Socrates, Haral, and Jennifer all have set a similar percentage of SMART goals. But Haral is consistently achieving more higher impact goals than Jennifer and Socrates. So it's not just about setting SMART goals, it's about achieving them and setting high impact goals. And this is where we can get an idea as to how much impact a direct report is having with their goal setting. So, if everybody's setting a bunch of low impact but SMART goals, it might make their SMART goal percentage look really high, but their SMART impact score will actually look pretty low. Now, this filter section is great. This is great for performance reviews because it can allow us to see what have our direct reports set as their goals month over month. So when you're doing your performance review, as opposed to trying to memorize all the goals your direct report set this past month, you can go in here and see all the goals they've already set. You can see were they low, medium, or high impact, whether or not they were SMART, whether or not they were achieved. So you can see the progress an employee has made month over month. So you'd be like, oh, wow, May, you did this. And June, you really crushed it. And you can see back to all these months that were really going really well and what was happening there. So that's where the filter section of the goals tab is really critical for just doing performance reviews. And then org chart view, this Sahil test account doesn't have direct reports of direct reports, but if you're a leader, let's say you're the CEO and you've got direct reports and then they've got a layer of direct reports below them, that's where this comes in great. So let's say Haral were to have her own direct reports, there'd be a little plus sign next to her, and there'd be a little community, there'd be a little logo that looks like this. And you'd be able to see what does Haral's team scores look like month over month. And if let's say there's a direct report of direct reports underneath that, you could see that. So ultimately you can see down to the individual level what's going on with every team and every individual at your company and in your reporting structure. This last section is the KPI section. So the KPI section looks at, one, how is your company's leaders performing? So if you're the CEO, if you're an executive at your company and you want to see how are you performing compared to other leaders at your company, this team summary is great. You can see in the scatter chart how every leader is doing in terms of sentiment and SMART goal attainment. What's also great, if you're a leader, is you can see how you compare to other leaders of similar teams and similar industries. This is awesome. We've actually helped leaders get promoted because they were able to show this data. And this is great because if, let's say you're a leader, you're trying to get to the next level. Maybe you're a vice president trying to become in the C-suite. Maybe you're a director trying to become a vice president. I don't know what your next step is, but you're trying to showcase why you're a great leader. And sometimes that can be really difficult because there's a lot of competition for these higher level jobs. This can actually show you why you're such a great leader and be able to show you how you compare to other leaders of similar teams and similar industries. You can also see industry average in terms of sentiment, engagement scores, SMART goal attainment, manager performance. You can see how you compare to other leaders, which can be a great addition to your resume because people can now see, oh my gosh, this person's not only really competent, they're a great leader of people, their team loves them, they receive their insight well, and they seem to have a really great impact with their team. So this is AIM Insights. This is what you get in AIM Insights. This is what it is. This is how it works. What's awesome about AIM Insights is that you can sign up for free right now. We give our first 30 days of AIM Insights for free. What that includes is an onboarding session with your direct reports where we explain what AIM Insights is and why it helps them. So you're not just jumping in and saying, hey, direct reports, I'm doing this thing, take this survey. We'll actually do an onboarding session with your team in a team meeting to work them through what AIM Insights is and how it helps them. It includes an hour of executive coaching, which is invaluable. You'll be meeting with one of our extremely gifted and really talented executive coaches who've been executive coaches for over 10 years. They're fantastic. They've done some amazing work in the executive coaching space, and they'll help you understand what's going on with your team. And if after a month you say, hey, you know what, this was great to try, I'm really glad I got this insight, but I'm not interested in moving forward, no harm, no foul. We have no long-term commitments. We go on a month-to-month basis. So you could essentially say, hey, you know what, this was interesting. I like it. I'm going to want to, maybe give it a couple more months and see how it goes. You could do that. There's no long-term commitment with AIM Insights. You can stop and start whenever you'd like to. We also have special bonuses. So if you really like AIM Insights and you want to bring in some fellow team members, fellow leaders to use AIM Insights, we've got referral bonuses for our leaders who help bring in other leaders to AIM Insights. But that is AIM Insights. I would love to see you sign up and love to get you started on your team using AIM Insights so we can see how we can help you and your team improve their performance.